The following chart shows the population of Jenkinsville and the number of televisions in the town through the middle part of the 20th century. The ratio of peoples to television in Jenkinsville decreased by approximately what percent from 55 to 60? So first of all, we have to figure out those individual ratios. Well, start in the 1955 ratio, that is 1200 over 80, or 120 divided by 8. Well, let's think about this. 40 over 8 would be 5. And so if we multiply the numerator by 3, we'd get 120 over 8. So that should equal 15. The other ratio, we have 150, 1500 over 150, and that just equals 10. And so we have a change from 15 down to 10. Well, percentage change is the difference, which is 5, divided by the starting point. So decrease by 15 over 5, or 1/3. What is 1/3 as a percentage? Well, that's 33 1/3% to the nearest integer. That is 33%. A 33% decrease. That's the answer, 33. The following chart shows the population of Jenkinsville and the number of televisions in the town throughout the middle of the 20th century. And we want to know approximately by what percent did the number of televisions increase from 45 to 50. So in 45, there were 30 TVs. In 1950, there were 50 TVs. So we increased from 30 to 50. So percentage change is always the difference. The difference is 20 divided by the starting point. So it's not 20 as a percentage of where it ended up, but 20 as a percentage of where it started. So it started at 30, and so that's 20 over 30 is 2/3, and 2/3 as a percent is 67%. Answer choice D. The following chart shows the population of Jenkinsville and the number of televisions in the town through the middle part of the 20th century. We want to know in which of the following years had the population of Jenkinsville increased by more than 20% from 5 years before. And so we're just looking at this column, population. And so we can go about this relatively easily just by thinking, all right, in 1940, 5 years before was a population of 680, and 10% of that would be 68, which is less than 70. Well, notice that it increased from 680 to 750. That's an increase of 70. And so it certainly didn't increase by double of 68. And so 1940 is not a year in which we increased by more than 20%. 1945, look 5 years before, 750. 10% of that is 75. 20% of it is double that, or 150. Did we gain 150 people? No, because 750 plus 150 would be 900, and we only got up to 840. So this was not an increase as large as 20%, and so 45 is not one of the answers. Now 50. Go 5 years back to 840. Well, 10% of that is 84. Double that, 20% is 168. Did we go up by as much as 168? We went up by 120, and 120 is less than 168, so we did not go up by 20%. And so this is also a no answer. All right, now 1955. Go back to 1950. 960, 96 is 10%. And notice that 96 is less than 100. If we double it, we don't know what that's going to be, but that's going to be less than 200. We don't even have to calculate that because this increase here is more than 200. So it increased by more than 200, which is more than double of 10%. So this is a more than 20% increase. So this is a year in which there was more than a 20% increase from 5 years before. Then in 1960, we got up to 1,500. So 5 years before it was at 1,200. 10% is 120. 20% is 240. And this was an increase of 300. And 300 is more than 240, so more than 20%. So that was more than a 20% increase also. So the last 2 years, we did have a population increase more than 20%. And so the answers here are D and E. The following chart shows the population of Jenkinsville and the number of televisions in the middle of the 20th century. So we want to know which of the following are closest to the average percent increase over a 5-year span in the number of televisions from 35 to 1960. So the whole chart. So notice that the answers are really spread out, so we can really use some rough approximations here. So let's just look at this. From 16 to 20, that's an increase of 4. 4 is what percent of 16? It's a quarter. So that's a 25% increase. From 20 to 30, that's an increase of 10. 10 is what percent of 20? It's half. So that's a 50% increase. From 30 to 50, that's a 20% jump. That's a 20 television jump. 20 is what percent of 30? Well, it's 2/3, so about 67% increase. From 50 to 80, that's a jump of 30. 30 is what percent of 50? 3/5, or 60% increase. And then from 80 to 150, that's an increase of 70. 70 is what percent of 80? 7/8. We don't need to know the exact number. It's somewhere in the 80s, around 87%. Notice that all of these numbers are larger than 18, and all of them are smaller than 96. So right away, 18 would be too small for an average. 96 and anything larger than 96 would be too large. And so that leaves us with only one answer. The average must be 56%. The following chart shows the population of Jenkinsville and the number of televisions in the town through the middle of the 20th century. For which of the following years was the ratio of population to televisions in Jenkinsville greater than 20? So we want to know if this number divided by this number is greater than 20. And an easy way to figure this out is to multiply all of these numbers by 20 and just compare them. So it's easy to multiply by 10. Multiply by 10, that's 160. Starting with 16 televisions, and then double that, we get 320. And 320 is less than 680. So this is a year in which it was more than 20. Multiply 20 by 10, we get 200. Double it, we get 400. 750 is less than 400, so the ratio was bigger than 20 in that year. Multiply 30 by 10, we get 300. Double that, we get 600. 600 is less than 840. So this is also a year in which the ratio is greater than 20. Multiply 50, we'll multiply it by 2. Multiply by 10, we get 500. Double that, we get 1,000. And 1,000 is just bigger than 960. So 960 this is not a year in which that is true. 80 times 2 is 800. Double it is 1,600. 1,600 is certainly less than 1,200. And 150, multiply that by 10, it is 1,500. Double that, it is 3,000. That is most certainly certainly greater than 1,500. And so we see it's only the first 3 years in which the ratio was bigger than 20. Choices A, B, and C. The following chart shows the population of Jenkinsville and the number of televisions in the middle of the 20th century. From 1955 to 1960, what is the ratio of the percent increase in televisions to the percent increase in population? This is a hard question because we have to figure out 2 different percent increases and then take a ratio of them. So first of all, let's just look at population over here. So population goes from 1,200 to 1,500. So it's a jump of 300. There are 300 more people. So 300 is what percent of 1,200? 300 over 1,200, of course that's 3 over 12, which is 1/4, and 1/4 is 25%. So that's a 25% increase. Population increased by 25% from 1955 to 1960. Now let's look at TVs. TVs go from 80 to 150. And so that's a jump of 70. So 70 is what percent of 80? 70 over 80 is 7/8, and this is the fraction 0.875, or 87.5%. And so that's the percent increase in TVs. So now we want to take the percent increase in TVs, 87.5, and divide it by 25. And when we do this on a calculator, we get 3.5, answer choice D.